There's been a dramatic rise in the number of women and girls caught carrying knives in England. Data obtained by BBC News shows a 73% increase in offences over the last 5 years, with nearly 6,000 cases recorded. Youth workers say some women end up carrying weapons for gangs because they are less likely to be stopped by the police. Our correspondent Sarah Corker has our special report.
Manchester city centre in the middle of the afternoon, and a teenager has been threatening someone with a knife. But look closely and there's a difference here. This is an 18-year-old woman. She was carrying this, a 12-inch bread knife. And across England, female knife possession is rising.
The first thing I would go do is run for a knife. I would go for a knife, threaten, cut.
It was like this mist came over me and I charged at her with the knife and just stabbed her straight in the top of her head.
Louise Ann and Teresa both lived in a world fuelled by violence and were addicted to drugs. For 12 years, Teresa carried a knife. She went to prison for attacking her neighbour.
I stayed in this lifestyle of just brokenness, in a very abusive relationship, to the point that my kids were taken into the care system, and at that point I completely lost all hope. So I started taking heroin. I was out on the streets working in prostitution, and I used to get in a lot of fights. There was a lot of violence. I'd either have a knife or a pair of scissors, something sharp.
Women are often overlooked or ignored when it comes to tackling Britain's problem with knife crime. It's framed as a male problem. But figures obtained by the BBC show that on average, one woman is caught carrying a knife here in the north of England every single day. In England, there's been a 73% increase in knife possession cases involving women in the last 5 years. Since 2014, there's been more than 5,800 cases of women caught carrying knives. Around a quarter of those involved girls under the age of 18.
So unfortunately, you have exploitation from the school gates.
And the causes are complex. Youth workers in Leeds say some women willingly carry knives to rob people. Others are being manipulated by men.
When they're asked to maybe be the courier of these weapons, they will agree to do that because they're wanting to please their partner. So what we've come across are women who will hide the weapons, say a knife, in a pram. You know, which police officer is going to look at a female who's, you know, walking with her baby in a pram and stop and search her?
In the West Midlands, police found these weapons hidden in a designer handbag.
How would I put it?
Louise Ann now lives in Salford. She first used a knife as a teenager in London to get cash. Then, in her 20s, as protection in abusive relationships.
I remember I used to have knives in my backpack. I would use it to threaten people. Give me what you've got, take it off of them. I used to sleep with a knife under my bed because I started to get quite paranoid. The more stuff that I'd done. I remember my boyfriend bought me this, he actually bought me knives. Knives got used all the time.
Across the Pennines in Sheffield, South Yorkshire Police is one of 7 forces with extra powers to tackle violent crime. Specialist officers target known trouble spots and have a more visible community presence.
I don't think it's any more nuanced for women than it is for men. It's about vulnerable young people getting drawn into the fringes of organised crime.
Back in Manchester, and the 18-year-old woman seen swinging a knife was sentenced to 12 months in prison. While Louise Ann and Teresa are both addiction-free and coming to terms with their past.
Put yourself around those positive things. If you hang about on the streets, you're gonna reap destruction.
Women carrying knives has often been described as a hidden problem, but with the numbers increasing, the pressure is on police to tackle it. Sarah Corker, BBC News.